The Path to Pilot Season, Part 2. So the last video we talked about, pilot season prep has to begin a long time before pilot season, at least 6 months, right? And so we talked about finding a place, or creating a place rather, where people can come and give you work. The second thing we talked about is building relationships with casting directors. And 3, being ready to audition come pilot season, meaning you understand the genres that are of the television shows and the style of acting of the television shows in the region in which you're working right now. You know who all those casting directors are, and if they called you in tomorrow, you wouldn't have to run to do an audition. You'd be ready, right? So that means that, for example, in New York City, Unforgettable, Gotham, Law and Order, Blue Bloods, several more shows, 30 Rock, all being shot here. Do you have sides from all of those shows in your repertoire? Do you know how to use that language? Do you have a sense of this acting style? Orange is the New Black, it's cast out of New York. Do you have some sides from that show in your back pocket that you could pull out at a moment's notice? Do you have an audition sample from any of the television shows that are being shot in New York right now that you could potentially audition for? Are any of those mock auditions with that material on your reel, on YouTube? So you could demonstrate to the casting directors that cast those shows that you know how to handle this material. Do you have a strategy for memorization? Which is the battle with television and film. The minute I see you trying to remember lines on camera, the audition is over. It means you're not truthful, because you're not in the moment listening to the person across from you. You're trying to remember a line, right? Which takes you out of the present acting moment. And I'll tell you, during pilot season, having a memorization technique is everything, because generally you'll get 6 or 7 pages of sides and you'll get it the night before or the morning of, or while you're running around going to commercial auditions. All of a sudden casting decides to add another role to an episodic that's shooting right now, and so they send out an emergency breakdown to all the casting people and go, hey, we're gonna have some emergency auditions, a new part has just been added, it's a guest star role, and today is Tuesday. We need to see people today, Tuesday at 4 o'clock. It is now 10 o'clock. And you get that audition. Do you have a strategy for memorization? I'll tell you, every client I meet with is not memorized. Well, I worked the lines, and what I did was, and here's how I know. Television is about truly listening. The camera wants to see you listening and taking in the other person. That's what the camera wants to see. The camera wants to see your thought processes unfold as the words of your acting object play on you emotionally. If you've rehearsed your lines by saying the other person's lines and then saying yours, then when you get into the audition, what the other person in the scene is saying to you is not new and fresh. You're no longer responding. You're basically just waiting for them to finish talking. It is that present instantaneity of acting for the camera that is everything. So I'll tell you my trick that I do with my clients is memorize all of your lines like a monologue. Don't bother to memorize the other person's lines. Don't even bother to drill them. You want those other lines to be fresh in the audition so that when you listen, you're hearing it for the first time, and what you have to respond with from your point of view and your strong emotional point of view are the lines that are already in your head by rote. What that ensures is that you're truly listening on camera. What this process of saying all of your lines like a monologue, and you should be able to say 3 pages of lines that are just yours in about 40 seconds. That's how fast it should be, right? Mary had a little lamb, this week's as white as snow, no acting involved. Learn them by rote. I promise you that this process, you will score. Because what will happen is the camera will catch you listening and hearing something for the first time and truly responding. That's my first trick. Totally a gift for you. Go do it. I generally record all of my lines just like a monologue, and then I run around and just say them while I'm washing dishes. That's how you really know lines. If you have to pause, you don't really know them. If you can't say them fast, you don't really know them. And the worst thing in the world is to go up on a line in a TV audition, because it's on the screen and it looks even worse on the screen than it does in person. Or, oh, I'm sorry, let me go back. Awful. looks like you're very, very green, right? And this skill about memorization is so incredibly important because the script that you auditioned with and you booked is not the script you're going to get when you arrive on set that day. And then while you're filming, they'll probably change the lines again. So if you haven't mastered the skill of memorizing lines quickly, you're dead in the water. And there's nothing worse than going into an audition and feeling like you're dead in the water, or like nothing happened. And nothing happened because you weren't truly listening. You were remembering lines and waiting to speak and waiting to act. You are schmacting when you're not really listening and responding from your most truthful point of view. Right? Here's my next trick. Pilot season. Unless you're a principal on the show or a recurring, you are there to tell the larger story of the script. So, whenever you're preparing for an audition, you generally, at pilot season, you only get the sides because there's a whole like non-disclosure agreement that goes on with pilots now because nobody wants to give away the end of the pilot, right? That's the mystery. And they're afraid that if they send it to actors, the whole script, they'll get online and talk about what's going to happen in the show this season. So most of the time, you're only getting the sides. Check out what page you're on, right? That will tell you how deep you are into the story, right? Identify in that scene what the major plot points are. What is the major event of the set of sides that you have? What happens? Is it something that happens to you? Is it something that happens to the principal? Is it something that changes the course of the story? What's the new information introduced and how does it affect the people that are speaking? And generally, new information is introduced and it creates a conflict. So the short of this is look for the conflict in the scene. There's got to be a conflict. It's the conflict of wills. It's a cop asking you questions that you don't want to answer. There's a secret that you know that you have to reveal by the end of the scene. There's a conflict. There's a problem. Identify that really quickly and make sure that when you start to talk about it with the use of your lines, we understand that really carefully, right? Because guest players are there to give us clues to solve the murder, right? So if your lines aren't precise and clear and you're not giving us this new information that will help the detective solve the murder, then you're not doing your job as the guest star actor. And your role as the guest star actor is to tell the larger story, to convey the most important information of your scene so that the audience can follow the story. So the audience understands that the new information that your character is forced to reveal in this scene is very important to them understanding the rest of the story, right? Some information is going to be revealed. Something that happened to you in the past was done to you by someone who is now under investigation for murder, and that's why the cops are coming to see you. Whatever it is that happens to you is important to the larger story. So the stakes of that need to be high. The language needs to be clear. Do your vocal warm-up so we understand everything that you've said. If it's a sci-fi thriller, 9 times out of 10, it's a lot of complicated information. If you're an FBI agent or you're a tech, some sort of computer whiz, the information that you're providing is complicated, it's conceptual, it has to do with science. You got to be clear. Those lines got to roll off your mouth like you've been saying that every day because you're a scientist, right? That's how, if you don't understand what a word or an idea is, Google it, research it. You should know, whatever your character knows, you should know it like the back of your hand, right? So whenever actors tell me, oh, pilot season, you say there's nothing I can do, I was like, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do, right? People wait for the industry to give them work. You're an artist. You're always at work, right? You know your emotional types. Are you going to play scientist more? Then learn to talk like a scientist. That's what you could be working on all year long, right? Are you a black woman who can play Latinas and nobody really knows that? That would be me. So that means all year long, before pilot season ever happens, I'm working on my Puerto Rican dialect, I'm working on my Cuban dialect, I'm working on my Dominican dialect. Because I want to be ready for those roles. I don't want to get the audition and be preparing the night before to learn how to speak like a Cuban woman. Right? There's tons of work you can be doing. But the first thing is to know what you're going to be called in for, know the style of the work. And once you know that, once you know my emotional chords are always going to be around a justice fight, or more than likely